I decided to write this encounter because I was inspired by a post I saw online. The story happened 3 years ago, and is an eerie experience I will never forget. It was late at night in our vacation cabin. I was staying the weekend with a group of my guy friends, whom we pitched in for the place. Since we had a large group, we were able to afford a nice cabin in the woods, having 3 stories, basement, first floor, and second floor, with an entrance from the basement and another on the first floor. Our cabin was situated on a hill, the first floor door being the main entrance, and the basement door at the bottom of the hill. I was enjoying myself on the basement floor, which was also the game room, drinking with my friends, playing foosball, and overall having a good time. It was past midnight when we heard strange shouting noises coming from outside. We found it odd because no one was around outside, and we thought it was the alcohol playing tricks on us. However, since we all heard something, we speculated it couldn't be just that. My friend decided to open the door. We were pretty rowdy inside, so I couldn't hear what happened, until my friend said, "Nah, we're good," and slammed the door shut and locked it. When we asked what happened, he told us a man was standing outside near the entrance and wanted to come in, have some fun with us. He mentioned he also saw that the man had a deformed hand, like he was missing some fingers, with blood trailing down from it. I was intrigued by this, so I decided to unlock the door and take a peek for myself. I didn't know what was going through my mind at the time, but I really wanted to know if what he said was true. Besides, I figured not much could have happened, since I was in a cabin full of guys, plus the alcohol in my system must have produced some liquid courage. When I looked outside and saw nobody, I thought he was just playing a trick on us. Nevertheless, I assumed that was the end of it, until we heard a commotion coming from upstairs. All of us in the basement then rushed to the stairs to the first floor. Apparently, this same man flew to the first floor and tried to get in through there, trying to get my other friends upstairs to let him in. By the time all of us from the basement reached the first floor, the commotion had ended. We asked the guys upstairs what happened. One of our friends said something similar, that this man wanted to come in and party with us, missing limbs, bloody hand and all. A couple of guys and I went out and tried to find this man, but he simply disappeared. It was extremely dark where we were, and there was nothing surrounding our cabin beside the trees and our cars. We checked around the house but couldn't find anybody. We decided to let it pass since it was already so late into the night, and thought it was nothing worth pursuing. When we woke up in the morning, we decided to look around again for clues outside the house to figure out what happened. Of course, we didn't find the man, but what we did find was the house completely surrounded by blood. Number 2. When I was about 7 years old in 2007, I was very close to being abducted. I remember it vividly, and I'm still terrified of what happened. I live in a 2-story house in a safe neighborhood. My mother and I were the only ones home at the time. My mother was taking a bath upstairs while I watched Nickelodeon downstairs, alone in the living room. The way my house is set up is that anyone can see the living room through the front door, even if the door is shut. I remember hearing a knock on the door, and I couldn't ignore it since whoever it was could see me, and they knew that someone was home. My mom usually would hide in the kitchen until the person knocking went away, and it was too late for me to run into the kitchen since he could see me. I remember feeling guilty since my mom has always warned me to never open the door to strangers. I got the key and unlocked the door. A man in his early 30s or late 20s wearing work clothes with a green tie was at the door. He asked me if I knew where my neighbor was and that he needed to see him. I also noticed that the guy was looking around the house and he waited for me to answer. I asked him which neighbor he was talking about, and then he said that he was older and lived somewhere near here. He didn't give me a name and was as vague as possible. I felt bad because I didn't know who he was talking about, since I live in a neighborhood with primarily older couples. I told him that I couldn't help him, but then he insisted that I help him search the neighborhood for my neighbor. I declined and the guy kept asking me. I told him no once more, and then the guy grabbed my arm and started to pull me out of the house. I grabbed the door frame and called for my mom. The man let go of my arm and started to casually walk back to his car. I'm pretty sure that it was a beige Civic, but I'm not too sure. It honestly scares me the most is that he didn't bolt and speed off. He was too calm. I just stood there and watched him drive away, as if nothing bad had happened. I didn't tell my mom about this incident until I was about 15, and she flipped her shit. I regret not telling her sooner, because there's no telling what this guy has done after, trying to kidnap me. To this day, I still panic when I hear someone knock on the front door. So man with the green tie, let's never meet again. Number 3. Okay, so I live in northern British Columbia, and this first incident happened in the middle of winter. My boyfriend and I were having a huge fight at 11:30 p.m. He snowplows in the winter, so his hours are really whacked out, and I soon retired to the front steps of my house to have a cigarette and feel sorry for myself. My pity party was short-lived when I heard some faint screams. It sounded like it could have been a block or two away. I wasn't sure. At first, I just thought it was teenagers screaming and goofing around late at night. Then I saw some cats in the middle of my street and thought maybe it's their meows carrying in the wind. And then I saw a couple loaders making the rounds, so I thought it could be their backup signals. That's when I heard it again, a bit clearer this time. I got up and walked about a dozen or so steps to my front gate, and that's when I heard it again. Except this time I heard them scream, "Help!" Keep in mind everything I heard so far is just faint enough that I can't really tell where it's coming from. So I walk out to the sidewalk. I think I see my across the street neighbor peeking out of her front door. So I muster up as much courage as I can and yell, "Hey, did you hear that screaming?" I really had bad anxiety, so taking a chance at looking like some crazy person who's hearing shit was a big deal for me. Not to mention I felt like if someone was getting assaulted, that my anxiety could hold off one embarrassing encounter. Moving on, my neighbor immediately said yes, she did. She was outside having a cigarette before bed in her backyard when she heard it. She said she was going to drive around the block and asked if I would come with her. I said yes. We live in a really small town, and it's Canada. Everyone is pretty nice. We drove around for about 15 minutes calling out hello, but we found nothing. I was looking specifically for someone laying unconscious in a snowbank, or patterns in the snow that may show signs that there was a struggle. We called the cops and nothing came of it, sadly. I just hope whoever was screaming that night is okay now. It's been a few months since then, and I was just coming home from my appointment today when my neighbor came up to me and asked if I saw anything last night. Apparently there was someone going door to door knocking on people's doors at 8:30, and when people weren't answering, they were jiggling the door handles. She said she was going around asking neighbors to see who else it happened to, and so far it's her and her left side neighbor that had the same encounter last night at 8:30. She was letting me know because she said she's home alone a lot because her man is out working. And I'm home alone a lot because my man is out. And I have a 3-year-old. And her left side neighbor is a woman who was home alone a lot too. Just a side note. I live in a pretty good area. Everyone mostly owns their homes, and it's a lot of old people or families. Weirdos trying to enter people's homes while they are home. Please, let's not meet. I have guns and dogs. I'm a fierce fucking mama bear. I will catch you. Thanks for watching, guys. Please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to The Sinful Society if you haven't already. I apologize for my extended absence. I recently started working a full-time job at a youth shelter in my town. I will try to make one video every week, between 10 and 15 minutes long, but I don't have the time to edit out all the little spit sounds, the little mouth sounds, so there might be a little more dirty on the audio. But, hey, something is better than nothing, right? Till we meet again, stay sinful.